Bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse them. If somebody doesn't like you, they can just make life difficult for you, sabotage your work or, just being a general thorn in your side, arguing with you every chance they get, um, insulting you in front of others, things like that, that just anything to make your life harder. And so Paul's advice here is bless them and do not curse them. So in those situations, what would you do to bless those people?
Speaking well of them instead of speaking things that are negative, of course. If you have an opportunity, if something comes up in a conversation, somebody's mentioning that person, to speak well, or sometimes not say anything at all. But I think speaking well is better. To pray for them and to even think good thoughts about them, to choose to believe the best. I think that's all important to the outcomes,
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts.
Yeah. I remember.
I like that one. Think good thoughts.
When congregation we were at a long time ago, my son when he was probably, I want to say 10, he was a little awkward, and, one of the other kids would pick on him sometimes. And there was some danger that this was going to catch on. And, when one kid starts picking on one, then others can sometimes, gang up on that one kid, and that can become a serious problem. Cameron had no idea what to do with it. I wasn't really sure how to handle this either. But I talked to the kid's father, and he had the idea that we should all go on a fishing trip together. So me and Cameron and this kid who'd been picking on him and his dad, we all went fishing together. And it wasn't really any big deal. We just went to a pond and spent the afternoon hanging out and fishing. And with nobody else around, there was no particular reason for the one kid to be picking on Cameron, because usually when people do that, it's because they've got an audience, and they're going to get something out of it, from the people who are watching. So having just to spend time together, being friendly and cooperating in something, created a friendship between the two, and there was never another problem again. If Cameron had suggested that, it probably wouldn't have gone, he probably wouldn't have been as amenable to it. But going through his dad, and, instead of like complaining and saying, hey, you need to get your kid in order, going to him and saying, we've got this problem, and I really don't want it to get out of hand. And it's going to be bad for both of our sons if we let it go on. So do you have any thoughts on how we can work this out? And approaching it in that manner of, just being a friend instead of being an adversary. We came up with a solution, and it worked out really well for everyone. So frequently it's just a matter of not doing what the other person expects. That's not always going to work. Obviously, some people just will hate, and they do what they can to make other people's lives miserable. Or like what June was saying, sometimes they don't even know they're doing it because it's just part of who they are. But when there is a possibility of having a real relationship, some kind of healthy interaction, just breaking that cycle of tit for tat will often be enough. All right, let's go on to verse 15. Rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. In a sense, this does really flow from verse 14, because the purpose of blessing someone who is persecuting you is to try to create a relationship. And then rejoicing with those who rejoice and weeping with those who weep is also not creating a relationship, but strengthening it. So you start with a broken relationship. You repair it by blessing the other person, and then you strengthen it through empathy and becoming, at least in the other person's eyes, the same as them. Like, I'm suffering, he's suffering because I'm suffering, and you can't help but have some kind of affinity for someone who is like that. or at least who is really seems to be empathizing with whatever you're going through, whether it's good or bad.